We are back in New Orleans. Be here for the next 4 days, covering the Sugar Bowl, Ole Miss and Baylor, Saturday night, 7:45 Central. Just after that, kickoff. There's a game that just went final, and I mean it was a blowout. Maryland crushed Virginia Tech 54-10 in that game, the Pinstripe Bowl.
Yeah, I just saw, I think it was like Mandel or somebody, the ACC has apparently lost 17 straight bowl games. 17 straight bowl games.
Things are going well.
Does that include, I guess, because...
Well, Clemson lost last year.
Yeah. I guess, if you put them all, clump them all together. That's how do you...
Or excuse me, 13 consecutive bowl games. 13. It's not 17, it's 13.
I would say 8 to 10 would be more than I could imagine, but no, 13.
13 consecutive after you said 17. It's like, reports are somebody was shot twice. No, they were only shot once.
Yeah, the second bullet just nudged them a little bit. But last night, Texas Tech, you got one other note on that?
No, I was going to say, like the Virginia Tech thing, it's like they had issues, but again, going back to earlier, who cares? I mean, Maryland's not going to celebrate it any less. They kicked their ass, and, I'm sure we'll be celebrating in grand style as a result of that, no matter what Virginia Tech had or didn't have available.
SMU, Virginia, were supposed to play. We know that's been canceled at Fenway Park. And then Clemson, Iowa State on the clock now, and then Oregon, Oklahoma play a little bit later on. Well, last night, I tell you what, I thought Mississippi State would probably beat Texas Tech, and I thought it would be like 30-27. I don't know, but I was wrong, dead wrong. Mississippi State got bludgeoned by Texas Tech, Sonny Cumbie and company, and we're now joined by Carlos Silva. Last time we spoke with him, it was the hiring of Joey McGuire as the head football coach at Tech, what seems like 6 months ago, and it nearly was. Carlos, hey, thanks for your time. What did last night mean as Texas Tech moves forward, in your opinion?
I mean, certainly you can look at the general perspective and give them positive momentum with Joey McGuire now taking the helm, as you mentioned. But I think just from a deeper peeling the onion type standpoint, beating your former coach that's just been bludgeoning you, via the media because of his firing and being owed money. And for many fans, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen it on Twitter, but a lot of them have said, this curse is broken. It's this Mike Leach thing of this guy was the last one to lead us to a winning season and kind of all these other things. And now all of a sudden, Sonny Cumbie, the Texas Tech alum, comes back, even though he had another job with Louisiana Tech, along with some other assistants as well, like Keith Patterson, Steve Farmer, Luke Wells, and some of these other guys, and Derek Jones as well, defensive back coach. And they come back and they get these guys ready to play and showed that sometimes the interim football coach role can be a little bit more than just a guy that's kind of holding things and making it warm for the next guy involved. He certainly had some pride, and as you guys just mentioned, I mean, they were able to show that they were ready to play and that they wanted to be in that bowl, and they finally got that big bowl victory that Texas Tech has been looking for the first time since 2013.
What was Joey McGuire's role in this bowl preparation, and how much of his fingerprints are on that win, even though Sonny Cumbie obviously ran the show?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, when you look at least from what Joey had mentioned when we talked to him when he was hired and kind of weeks leading up, he said he's just going to watch practice, see how the guys performed in practice, and kind of watch them in the game, which certainly a lot of those guys had some really good highlight tapes, and then not only that, but really good resumes based off of last night's performance. So he has to be very excited about some of the guys he's going to inherit. And in terms of the bowl prep, from what I've understood, he said he wanted to be hands-off. He wanted to let Sonny kind of do his own thing, which he certainly did, and everything worked out pretty well, as you guys kind of saw.
Yeah, it definitely did. Carlos, I mean, how surprised were you by that result? I mean, to be as lopsided as it was, many people probably picked Mississippi State. Both teams were pretty even. Now definitely are even record-wise. But, Donovan Smith had a nice game. I mean, what was just kind of your surprise level, I guess, if any?
Well, I think even the people in Vegas were surprised. They had Mississippi State as 9.5-point favorite. So certainly it's an upset if you want to use that term as well for Texas Tech. But then when you look at all the guys that were out for Mississippi State, yes, you can say whatever you want about that, but Texas Tech certainly put it to them in that first drive where they ran the football. If I'm not mistaken, it was about an 80 to 90-yard drive, and you just run it instead of passing it because, as you guys well know, when you think of Texas Tech, you don't necessarily think of running, but you get all those guys running the football and running very well, and they just established the tempo, and I think that was set by Sonny Cumbie, who you could tell wanted to punch Mississippi State in the mouth. And at the end of it, I don't know if you guys are watching the post game deal, but he's like, "Well, looks like the Red Raider was able to beat the Pirate," which is a little bit of a play to Mike Leach saying about the Pirate beating the Soldier when they beat Texas A&M. So I think it was a little personal, I would say, for Sonny, just in terms of obviously the former player that was picked by Mike Leach, the walk-on, earned his quarterback spot, and now I think it's fair to say he kind of earned his spot in the Lubbock lore of legends, and not only that, but then he kind of beat the master, if you will. Student beats the master.
His emotions, and I think I've watched Sonny Cumbie when he's been a coordinator, when he's been elsewhere, and I know he played at Texas Tech as well, but his emotions last night was a man possessed. Seemed like that game,
absolutely.
that game, I think, meant as much to him as perhaps anybody on earth, it seemed like to me.
Well, and I mean, you can even make the argument. I know he's going to go to Ruston, Louisiana, and coach the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs, but I think he's the way that he turned around this Texas Tech football program, because as you guys well know, when the interim football coach label is put on you, that's essentially kind of, okay, keep this warm and make sure that nothing really goes crazy. And that necessarily did not happen with Sonny Cumbie. He came back. Now, maybe a little bit was because of his love for Texas Tech, being an alum and being as part of the program. But when you look at the fact that every assistant coach minus one, Mark Hammerdal, who was at TCU, and that's just due to the fact that Kirby Hocutt had mentioned that it was just one of those deals where you just didn't want another Big 12 rival assistant on your staff. But every other assistant coach, GA, came back to, just have this one objective, and that's to win this bowl game for these seniors, 12 of them that came back because of the COVID year. And some guys have just decided that we want to change the culture here. And it's just one of those, I don't want to say it's written for Hollywood moments, but it's just one of those deals where a good deed is given a plentiful and fruitful reward. And you saw that with Sonny Cumbie with his emotion, and not only that, but then just the players who, I know Sonny mentioned it after the postgame, in the postgame presser yesterday, was he had asked when he first started, he asked his team, anyone that has won a bowl game, please stand up. And he said no one had stood up. And now his goal was to make sure that every one of those players stood up afterward. And certainly they can now after they won yesterday against the Bulldogs.
Carlos, if you're a Louisiana Tech fan, I would assume that you felt good about Sonny Cumbie anyway, because the Louisiana Tech told you to feel good about him. But last night probably doubled that enthusiasm because of the way he did approach that game. It didn't look to me at all. You mentioned it, but the interim coach, that he was warming the seat and getting ready to leave and go to another state.
Well, not only that, but then you have to imagine that he's showing a little bit of what he wants to bring to Louisiana Tech. And I mean, he even kind of joked that he's going to have to figure out a new thing, because pump jack mentality. Yeah, there's a couple pump jacks in Louisiana, but he wants to try and find another identity when he does get to Louisiana. But the fact that he was able to come up with that pump jack mentality, all the guys bought in, and he was just able to be a leader of men, as a couple of players mentioned to me before the bowl game. I think that bodes well for him going to Louisiana Tech, because if you're a coach, you either want to be a good motivator, leader of men, a good X's and O's guy, and certainly Sonny Cumbie kind of checked all those boxes yesterday after what you saw.
Is the pump jack mentality going to stay around in a Joey McGuire way? Because, man, I'm seeing a lot of pump jack on my timeline from Lubbock over the last few weeks, Carlos.
I would imagine so. And I mean, Sonny even kind of, when we asked him about it, he said he'd be very proud of it, because it's something that he can say is a legacy that he left. And certainly it's something that was a identity of this team, is the fact that they all came to work, no matter all the distractions, the head coach getting fired, the head coach getting hired, injuries, whatever else you want to add to it. No matter what happened, they all still came to work. They all still bought into this idea of, we need to win a 6 game, and they finally got that with that big, huge 62-yard field goal against Iowa State. And then after that, yeah, they had a little bit of adversity, played Baylor to the bone, essentially, almost tied the game. Jonathan Garibay missed his first field goal of the year. He certainly was bummed about it, but he knew they were going to bounce back, and certainly they did. Got to a bowl game, won their 7th game, and again, winning record, bowl game first time since 2013 and 15, so respectively. And it's just one of those deals where it's just, like I said, I know kind of cliche, but I mean, it's one of those feel good stories now that you can kind of look back at. As Sonny had mentioned post game last night, and just say, well, we can look back and know that we are all kind of linked together because of this crazy season.
Yeah, because, I mean, they did beat Iowa State with that 114-yard field goal or whatever it was.
Yep.
It looked like a Tiger Woods 3-iron, the way he hit that as well. And then, of course, they did take Baylor to the brink, and that thing could have gotten away from them. And the fact they get to a bowl game and they finished, to me, that's crazy. Stand up and who's won a bowl game and nobody did. That's very telling. So I know they were able to piece together, and maybe even more than that, a signing day class back in December. The transfer portal has helped them as well. Joey McGuire's brought some guys along that he knows. Is the optimism there higher than it's been since when?
Oh, man, that's a really good question. I would say probably when Cliff was hired. I mean, you look at just the excitement of, okay, this is a guy that we all like. This is pump jack mentality. There's a guy with a lot of enthusiasm, a guy that's now more of a CEO type of coach. He's more of a relationship builder because, again, this is kind of the new era of football, at least from what I've seen. You either get an X's and O's guys, you try and get a motivator, you try to get a relationships guy that can get you recruiting, which to kind of answer your question maybe a couple minutes ago, but Joey McGuire essentially focused on recruiting this whole time. So he had a huge advantage compared to some other coaches that when you're hired, you know, that late in the deal, you're kind of focused on recruiting and you're still trying to get your team ready to play a game. No, Sonny did all of that. And I think that's something that may get lost in all of this, but I know the Texas Tech fans kind of realize what a decision was made by Sonny to come back and do this for their football team, because again, and I don't want to demean the point, but this may be a program changing win. And now that Joey McGuire's here, you essentially have a clean slate because you beat Mike Leach, a coach that everyone kept talking about. Well, hey, he was there the last time we won, had a lot of winning seasons, a bowl win, and then all of a sudden you take him on and, you know, the student beats the master. And not only that, but he beat him pretty bad.
Hey,
I got a question. Carlos, in terms of, you know, obviously got the first signing day wrapped up and I guess felt pretty good. I know that a lot of attention's actually on 2023 already because of the fast start there. The staff has been hired. Like what is like on the to-do list, so to speak, for Joey McGuire now coming up? Now that they've got this era officially over and Sonny's going to go do his thing elsewhere, where does McGuire start now in terms of putting crossing T's and dotting I's this spring?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you're going to see who comes back. I know the first thing he said is he's going to have to re-recruit some of the guys that, yes, I know I mentioned they were all bought in for this one objective for a bowl game, but now you won your bowl game. The objective is done. And, of course, you guys know about the transfer portal. That changes things. So are you going to have some guys that come back? Some of the guys that could be eligible, Marquise Waters, who applied for a medical hardship waiver. He was a potential starter in your secondary that obviously did not play after a season-ending injury. Sean Merriweather's another guy. Adrian Fry, who made an interception last night. Jonathan Garibay, who, as you guys know, made that crucial kick, and kind of just all those guys that could come back. So it's just one of those things that you have to see, okay, one, who's coming back, and potentially maybe Donovan Smith isn't the starting quarterback because Tyler Shuck wasn't cleared because of the collarbone issue that he had. So you have a potential quarterback competition. I mean, there's a lot of things to kind of figure out, and I think the one thing that Joey's kind of looking at least from a transfer portal perspective, is can you get better on the offensive and the defensive line, because those are two places he struggled. Everywhere else, I think they were fine. In terms of playmakers, yeah, you may need to add a couple wide receivers because you can never have too many with the Zach Kitley type offense that's about to start. I think that's the next thing, is you have to establish what Zach Kitley wants to do. You have to be a little bit more balanced now. The running back room seems okay, but then again, this could all change if a guy decides to transfer. So I think that's the biggest thing, is can he keep all the guys that he feels made them super successful last night, and then from there you adjust.
Carlos Silva just now being able to kind of make up for lost time of sleep during that Joey McGuire, that coaching change. And hey, Carlos, it's been great to have you on during that time and elsewhere, and also for this week as well. Get some rest, get some decompression. I know basketball's already started, and appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of the week.
Anytime. Same to you all, and Happy New Year.
You too. Carlos Silva, Lubbock Avalanche Journal, with us on Texas Tech win and moving forward 7-6. And you got that Baron Wharton, the quarterback who's coming in, a kid from Eastland. He's there. And so you got he and Smith, Donovan Smith, got that's a great quarterback battle right there. And Smith got a leg up because of what he did the last few games.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably all cleared up, though, going to spring ball because now it's a new head coach. So I think Smith's got a little bit more experience. But, yeah, I mean, that'll be a good little battle. And, of course, the transfer portal can change things overnight for anybody. So, yeah, I mean, there could be a guy we're not even talking about that is getting ace up the sleeve or something at some point. But they seem to be in good shape. That was a really nice win. The Leach factor, I mean, obviously that was probably bigger than anything, I think, as far as just, taking down your old demons in a way, and being able to do it that convincingly and leave him kind of flummoxed at the end of it. I'm sure that was a tough pill to swallow for Mike Leach.
No question. And someone on the chat room said that won't be ended. That doesn't end the jinx until they pay him the money. But that was an ass-kicking last night. Okay, when we come back, in fact, Avery Bowerman just dropped through part of what she set us up here at the Marriott, the Media Hotel. When we come back, George Teague. What a game in the 93 Sugar Bowl when Alabama beat Miami, beat them badly, and Teague had a couple of huge plays in that game. And his thoughts about Baylor and Ole Miss, his thoughts about Baylor's running game against Mississippi and their 3-3-5 defense, all of that and more. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports live from New Orleans.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine.